Welcome back to the Total-MLS Roundtable. We've been on a bit of a hiatus. That's because I'm lazy sometimes. But we're back because there is quite a few things to talk about in the world of Major League Soccer. We will start right away because we're going to try to jam as much into this hour as possible. So, today, everyone's just enjoying their afternoon. All of a sudden, there's news that Don Garber is going to have a press conference or a phone conference, and then all hell broke loose. Guys, your initial thoughts on Garber v. Jurgen?
I loved it. I
This
loved
is
the drama.
this is coming from Canada. Rob, north of the border, liking the infighting. The parents were fighting. You were okay with it.
Oh, I was okay.
I think I think it finally reached a boiling point for Garber. He had enough, and it was his time to kind of speak his mind. No holds barred. He grabbed the microphone and went WWE on everyone, and it was pretty glorious. Philip, you tried to keep up with it live.
Yeah, for the sister site 32 Flags, I tried to keep up with posting, and it was just coming in thick, and I let the floodgates go, let it go, and I wrote something up afterwards about it.
Yeah, there were so many good lines, so many good quotes in there. It was like, where do you even begin? He just took everyone to task, and somewhere Sunil Gulati was in a corner trying to make it stop. He had nothing to say about it. Mike, your initial thoughts on Don Garber going Hulk Hogan on everyone?
I was at work for it, and I came home a couple hours ago, and I saw like, all the fallout, all the polls, and I had no idea what happened. And then I got an ESPN alert on my phone about Garber's comments, and I went to the site to MLS Soccer, and I saw it, and then I went and read some other people's stuff, and I mean, it's a long time coming because Klinsmann has been criticizing MLS since he basically started. When he took the job, didn't he criticize the schedule that they had, MLS? That the schedule that we had, that we played reverse from everyone else, was going to be difficult. So right off the bat, he was giving it to MLS. So, I mean, not shocked that Garber fired back, but I mean, with this whole MLS next and two teams coming in next year, and they're boasting they want to be one of the best leagues by 2022 and all that. He's got to protect his the league that he runs, and he's a marketing guy. So, the U.S. coach coming out and killing the top domestic league to the average fan who's not going to be, who's not in depth, doesn't follow the league in depth and stuff like that. Oh, why is the U.S. coach criticizing MLS? It's like Mike Krzyzewski criticizing the NBA. People will be very confused by it, where it's just one organization. MLS is separate from U.S. soccer, so it makes sense that Garber did it, and I'm kind of with Garber. If Klinsmann wanted to change MLS, he should have taken Garber's job.
Well, sorry, I just want to jump in there. Klinsmann did have a big opportunity to have his impact on MLS when he was hired as a consultant by these guys.
That's right.
And Mr. Klinsmann decided that it would be a good idea to hire one Aaron Vinter to take over as coach.
The Aaron Vinter era.
Yes. So
Good times.
by Jurgen Klinsmann criticizing Michael Bradley for playing in Toronto and having a bad season, he's in turn taking a jab at himself because Klinsmann had the opportunity to turn around that franchise, and he blew it pretty badly, actually.
Yeah, I think he's had an issue with MLS for a while, like you were saying. I think that when he starts calling out the stars of the league is when Garber, like you said, he has to say something. He has to protect the league because people are gonna oh, well, Michael Bradley shouldn't be in MLS. Jurgen Klinsmann said it's not good enough, or it's not. He can't be prepared if he plays in MLS, and Clint Dempsey can't. But then on the other hand, Josie Altidore sits the bench forever, and Klinsmann won't say anything about that. It's just, I agree with you guys. I think Garber had to say something. He couldn't, he probably went a little far, and having a conference call was where he just went off when everyone was kind of amateur hour, but it makes for an interesting time now in the league.
What I saw, I looked at it. Garber had to say something because he's essentially defending his league, and I get that. I wrote in the article that I for one side with Klinsmann for most part. I understood where Garber was coming from, but the one thing that really got to me was Garber saying that he wanted Klinsmann to see the vision of like something about U.S. soccer and wanting everybody to be supportive, which that's not, in any sort of business, whether it's a sports league or a company like that, you have to welcome people with different mentalities, different experiences, and different ideas. That's what Klinsmann's bringing to the table. He's not right 100% of the time, but neither is Garber. There are some things that Klinsmann wants to do that just can't happen. Pro-rel, switching it to the winter calendar, it's just impossible. It's the way it is. But there's some things that Klinsmann does want to do, concentrate on academies, youth, playing in more hostile places, maybe get match ready, focusing on fitness. That quite frankly wasn't done in the past. So it's just a situation where they both sort of need to listen to each other and sort of stop the pissing contest.
Oh, I mean I agree. It's nothing. This argument is going to be good for MLS and U.S. soccer down the pipeline, whether it's 2018, 2022, or down the line, because it starts a discussion and it elevates us to the next level. I think a lot of clubs are starting to also focus on their academies more. The Sounders 2 and Timbers 2 come in, and you have LA 2, Real Salt Lake, and Montreal have younger teams. So that will develop their players from like the 18 to 22 range who might not be in college, who might have signed pro contracts where they're not going to, since they're not playing college, they're not getting minutes there, but they might not get minutes in MLS games unless they might get CONCACAF or Open Cup or Canadian Championship, but they'll get a lot of game minutes in that club system, and that'll do nothing but benefit the teams and benefit U.S. soccer going forward. Klinsmann, he turns around and criticizes Dempsey and Bradley. Dempsey's having a pretty damn good season for all the games that he missed, and Seattle has still functioned well without him. Bradley has had a good season for TFC. There's a lot of bad calls that have gone against them in a couple of games, and they might be sitting higher. But that's just the nature of the beast of MLS and the reffing, which is a completely different story that that a lot of other people don't have control over. But then you look at guys like Omar Gonzalez, Zusi, Beasler, Brad Davis. All these guys are all MLS born and bred, and they came to the college system. They didn't really have academies, and they're doing fine. They did great from the World Cup, but amount of playing time, a lot of wear and tear on their bodies. But he can't sit there and bash MLS when a lot of his roster was from MLS. So
Yeah, he doesn't have a job without the players from MLS that have developed, the Yedlins, the Gonzalez, the Beaslers, the Zusis, the guys that have come up through MLS, and now they're, cogs in the national team. Obviously they could have developed at Ajax or, Queens Park Rangers or whoever it may be, but it's just the fact that, the whole reason MLS was born was because the '94 World Cup, FIFA said they needed a league and all that. So U.S. soccer and MLS have kind of been in bed since day one, and now all of a sudden it's like they're filing for divorce or something.
Well, exactly, and I agree. I think Klinsmann was more hurt with Bradley because Bradley at the time was starting at Roma. He played almost every game, and then the next year he was Roma's in Champions League. They're playing against Bayern Munich and Manchester City, which it's better competition than Vancouver and Columbus. So, but Dempsey was kind of on his way out at Spurs. He could have gone back to a Fulham type team, but I think to Dempsey it was a better move coming back to MLS. But I think Bradley still had something on the table. And then you see,
I kind of see your point, but I think the same issue that caused Defoe to kind of fall out of favor at Tottenham is the same kind of thing that happened at Roma with Bradley. Because at Tottenham, Tottenham ended up picking up Roberto Soldado to kind of pick up the pace for Defoe. And at Roma, they picked up, what's the guy's name, Nangolian or something like that as their midfielder. Something like that. I can't remember his name exactly.
Yeah, Roman was kind of shopping around Bradley.
Yeah. So you're completely right. I mean, even just being on the bench in Champions League would probably be better than playing in Toronto, but
but at the same, going on that, the ultimate is playing good minutes in Europe for a reasonably top European team. But if you're on the bench all the time and you're young, you need minutes.
Yeah,
Europe's not the end all be all. I love idea. I want Americans to go to Europe, but if you can't get the minutes, MLS is a good alternative.
of course.
yeah. Like Breck Shea sits the bench at in the championship. That's not good. Who's that good for?
Yeah. So when I looked at guys like Beasler and Zusi, I'd love for them to go over there and try Europe, but Beasler was getting a couple offers. I don't think Zusi really had as many offers as people said, or they weren't really that good. I don't want to see them on the bench. I'd rather they play in MLS.
Yeah, no, from a U.S. soccer standpoint, you want your guys playing week in, week out, gaining experience.
Yeah,
I mean, look at Tim Ream. He goes over to Bolton right away. He's in the starting lineup, and they get relegated, and he sits the bench for the first few months of that next season. That coach gets fired, new coach comes in, Ream's playing again, and he's been playing steadily and very well for Bolton the last couple, all of the last half of last season and this season. So he's back in the national team picture. Breck Shea can do the same thing, but like you said, you don't know when they go over to Europe. You don't know
exactly
because Europe is a lot more fast-paced. Coaches get fired a lot more quickly than they do in MLS. And I mean, in all honesty, MLS doesn't have the depth that a lot of other European clubs do. Whether even if it's a Fulham, they have a lot more depth, a lot more talent that they developed over time. And let's not forget, MLS is going to be, 21 next year? How old are all the leagues in Europe? I mean, these teams have been around for some over a century and stuff like that. So the Premiership is just a little bit older than MLS, but they still formed out of an existing league that was there for decades. So they've had time to work the kinks out and stuff like that. MLS hasn't. MLS was just thrust after the '94 World Cup. It was just, here's a league, and they've had to work as they grew, and that's a difficult thing to do, especially in a sport landscape where there's a lot of other sports. Not a lot of countries have a lot of other sports like we do, and they don't have all the when we have the best American Football League, what other country besides Canada has an actual football league? At the NBA, the MLB, stuff like that, we have all these huge leagues. Soccer is trying to find its foothold, so Klinsmann has to give it time. He wants it to just overnight work for him, and it's not going to.
Yeah. Well, that's what I tell people when they argue with me about, people argue with me about, MLS sucks, European soccer's great. the form of the EPL, the English soccer pyramid, started in the late 1800s. So they had a 100-year head start. MLS isn't as good as the Premier League, but it's unfair to even compare the two.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, if you look at it from Garber's perspective, when you sign Michael Bradley and when you sign Clint Dempsey, the first thing in their mind was not, hey, these guys are going to be good soccer players here. I mean, it probably was 1A, but their main thing was these guys are going to sell tickets. These guys are going to get this giant TV deal that we just got. These guys are going to get people that don't come to MLS games to say, hey, Michael Bradley's in town. I know him. Hey, Clint Dempsey's in town. That's the guy that scored against Ghana in the World Cup. I'm going to go see them. I mean, that's Garber's job is to make MLS as good as it can be, and if it's bringing in stars, whether they're American or it's Robbie Keane or if it's Gilberto from wherever, he has to bring in stars that make the league not just attractive for fans, but attractive for other stars, and then attractive for TV and attractive for advertisers. They just got this money from Heineken, so he has a lot more than Jurgen just wants to see. These guys need to play because they need to be on the national team. That's it. And Garber has 100 other reasons he wants to see guys come to MLS.
Right. Like let's say next year, New York City FC, their third DP, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, or Orlando City. I mean, we're signing. Like when the Red Bulls signed Henry and when TFC signed Defoe. I mean, these are well-known guys around the rest of the world. Clemson's not going to come out and criticize them, obviously, because they don't play for U.S. soccer. But so what's the difference with us signing, like, what American people on the national team? I mean, I guess because they're a little bit younger, but, I mean, Dempsey's not that young anymore. I mean, Bradley's is hitting that peak. I mean, I can see Josie coming back and Josie being a real big problem for him if he came back to MLS. I can see Klinsmann getting really angry over that. But Josie's got to go somewhere and play, especially before the Gold Cup, especially before the Centennial Cup the year after, and then hopefully the Confed Cup. Josie has to be on a team where he's playing, and he's not. It's not going to happen at Sunderland. It's just not. Whether it's a team in Italy or even if he goes back to AZ Alkmaar, he's got to play, and I don't know. It's weird that. Did Klinsmann say anything about Jermaine Jones in his comments? Because Jones came back this year too.
When Jones came, Jones mentioned that he talked to Klinsmann about MLS and that Klinsmann kind of gave him the okay or gave him the you should do that. And maybe that's because Jones is older, maybe, but it's kind of double speak. If Klinsmann's going to tell some guys, hey, this is good for you,
But I think this opens up a deeper thing, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, but Klinsmann's only criticizing those players who made it big before he became manager. And I love Klinsmann to death. I think he's the right man for the job at the U.S., but he's not getting on Zusi, Beasler, Gonzalez, Beckerman, Raimondo for being in MLS. He kept Donovan off the team for fitness, being in MLS, whatever. Now he's criticizing Dempsey, he's criticizing Bradley. What's the real reason? Because it's more than just the league they're playing in.
I think it's pretty clear. He's what we would call a Euro snob. He's gonna hold the guys who made it big in Europe to that European standard, whereas the guys that kind of made their bones in MLS, that's kind of their peak to this point, unless they get an opportunity to go elsewhere. So I think that's most of his reason, but he's gonna have to get over the fact that a fair portion of his team going forward. I mean, I don't know all that much about the U.S. soccer structure, but I know the quality of the American players that are in MLS, and to be completely honest, I don't know of very many that are in Europe or elsewhere. So for qualification and for the next World Cup cycle, he's going to have to get used to the fact that MLS is where the American player grows, essentially, unless there's some kind of a prodigy that is discovered at 12 years old and is signed over in Europe.
Yeah, and he has these, like, he keeps going after these German-born Americans like that have never been in the American system. He thinks like they're automatic. Like, Timmy Chandler's gotten like a million chances. He doesn't want to play. Well, I kind of want to play. Well, I do want to play. And Jurgen keeps bringing him back. Landon goes on like one sabbatical, and he's enemy of the state forever.
Yeah.
He has to
And,
go
and,
ahead.
it's kind of just the guy that he's used to. There's young guys like that have bought into Jurgen's system, whether they're playing in MLS or they're playing overseas, whether they're German American or American American. They've bought into Jurgen's system. I don't think the more established guys like Donovan Dempsey and Bradley have bought into it yet. So I don't want to go all conspiracy theorist but I pointed this out yesterday that when Klinsmann put Bradley up to attacking mid, I thought, is he really doing this to experiment, or is he doing it to find an excuse to kick Bradley off the team?
Yeah, I mean, and Bradley's situation is very unique too, just because Jurgen did take his dad's job, so that had to be a little weird. Just going from your dad being the coach to this guy, and then now Bradley has pissed him off for whatever reasons. So it's one of those things, like, Bradley can't win now because he's now in the Jurgen doghouse, him and Landon and Dempsey's. But then Dempsey gets the armband. He's the captain, and Jurgen loves him, and he came back. So I don't know.
I think I've said this on probably a couple other roundtables, but what is it about Americans and just hating on Michael Bradley? Like, I don't get it. It's like what you
love him.
It's like what you just suggested. Did they put him in an attacking midfielder to find a reason to kick him off the team? And what does he do? He sends a perfect ball through to Josie, and Josie buries it. You play him as a ball-winning, holding midfielder, as he's played for TFC, and he controls the pace of the game. I don't know what Jurgen wants from this guy, and I don't know what most of these hateful U.S. soccer fans are expecting from the poor guy, but, like, he just gets torn to shreds. And I've had to post, as a Canadian, I've had to post on some of these Facebook posts from MLS, and just seeing these comments, it bugs me, and I have no vested interest in the American system. So,
well, I understood with Bradley during the World Cup, because he essentially had to play two positions, defensive mid and attacking mid. But there were a few times during that World Cup where I could have tweeted, "Get to the bleeping ball, Bradley."
It's uncensored. Go for it.
But I understood that the dude ran. I don't know how much, but he ran like 10 miles longer than everybody on the team. So
he busted his hump, and
Go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna say the Josie injury really screwed over that team. Not Klinsmann, because he did not bring a replacement for Josie Altidore, because Dempsey does not work up top alone. We've seen that time and time again throughout Dempsey's entire U.S. career. If he is up behind him, Dempsey's going to see less and less of the ball. And yes, you're supposed to defend from the front, from your first guy, high pressure. That's how Klinsmann wants to do it. Dempsey doesn't do that up there. He's better playing under a striker, and then you have Michael Bradley behind Dempsey. So Bradley can win the balls in the midfield, so will Deuce, and then Bradley can hit unbelievable passes. I mean, my God, the amount of crossfield passes that Bradley just kept hitting on a dime Saturday night at Red Bull Arena, my friend and I were going insane, yelling at Dax and Eric Alexander and whoever else to just put pressure on Bradley, because every time he picks his head up, he's going to hit a ball and it's going to find whoever's foot. And don't trust the Red Bulls defense, so we know it's always going to be an issue. It was, I mean, how do people not know that he's going to be able to do that? I mean, the pass that he hit to Julian Green against Belgium,
Yeah.
We're criticizing this guy, and he's the only guy that gives us any sense of hope in that game, practically, besides Tim Howard.
Exactly.
I think Bradley gets. I mean, people think Bradley sucks, or they don't like the way he plays. He's not to sound all soccer snob and I've studied the tactics, but Bradley doesn't do a lot of stuff that shows up on paper to an average fan. He doesn't score goals. He doesn't blast shots off the crossbar that are.
He's
close.
not flashy. He gets the job done.
Right. He runs his ass off. He links passes together. I mean, and he's a perfect central midfielder. But a lot of fans or people that aren't big into soccer, they see, that guy scored 12 goals this year. He's amazing. Well, somebody had to set him up, or
right.
Go ahead, Philip.
And in the World Cup, you got, let's be honest, a lot of people watching probably for the first time. All they hear is Michael Bradley, and then they see Michael Bradley playing, and they're like, I thought he was good.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
I say the only people I can talk to about soccer who don't understand it, I have a lot of coworkers and friends that watch the World Cup, and it's like their first soccer, and they're like, I don't understand about this Bradley guy, and the only people who get it are hockey fans, in all honesty, because hockey's the same way, You can explain to them what kind of goals in the back of the net. He has other responsibilities. That's what the guys in front of him and on the wings, that's their job. His job is to roam and set up. And they're the only ones that get it out of anyone else. You can't explain it to anybody, and it's like, why doesn't he just hit a shot? So.
What is this hockey you guys speak of? We don't have much hockey in South Texas. No, but yeah, I mean, there's so many different things to talk about. Just that conversation turning into Michael Bradley, turning into everything else. It's one of those things that's going to be talked about now for weeks, for months. The next U.S. friendly. Yeah, the next friendly, Jurgen will call in all NASL players just to
send a message.
Yeah, just to send a message.
I saw somebody say that Klinsmann should just bring in all European-based players in the next friendly, which he may anyway because of the MLS playoffs.
Yeah, he may not have a choice. He may not have a choice. But I think their next game's what, November something?
Yeah, November. Yeah, so
in Scotland.
We're right in the middle of the playoffs. So it's going to be mostly European-based.
Yeah, depending on who's eliminated, you can get Brad Davis in there. Maybe a great finisher like Will Bruin could pop up. Maybe FIFA Team of the Week goalkeeper Tyler Derrick. Just throwing it out there, Jurgen. All right, so with that, will segue off of the national team and segue to Houston. Dom Kinnear, the only coach the Houston Dynamo have ever known, is leaving. He's going back to San Jose, where his family still lives. If he said today if there was one job he would leave Houston for, it would be San Jose. He had the chance. There was rumblings that he was going to leave, and it's come true. Now San Jose, all of a sudden, where do they stand with Kinnear? And now Houston with only the second time they've ever not made the playoffs, Rob. Like they don't make the playoffs. It's a bad thing. They now go into a rebuild, new direction. Well, let's start with the earthquakes. What do you guys? Kinnear, obviously, the hire for them.
Yeah, I mean I think that was the only thing. I think once they announced this new stadium, I think everyone knew Mark Watson wouldn't be on the bench for that first home game for whoever it was going to be at that time. he's an old face from that franchise. It stinks for Houston because they're going to be probably in the Western Conference at that, so they'll see Dominic Kinnear a lot. And I mean, with Houston not making the playoffs, I guess it's the right time for Kinnear to move on. You guys have had pretty much like the same core group of guys for the last couple of years, so it's MLS. Welcome to let's start slowly filtering out the old guys and bring the new.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they didn't make the playoffs, and it was kind of I wrote a couple weeks ago, it was kind of the perfect storm for Kinnear to leave. It was the new stadium. It was Watson obviously going to get fired, the Dynamo in a down year, and probably going to start to rebuild with some new guys. It all kind of came together, and it made sense for Kinnear to go. He didn't have one last playoff run in him, but Philip is probably happy to see that Dynamo will not be in the playoffs. Mike,
Yeah.
well,
It was more being relieved than happy, but all right.
yeah. And I think Dom's kind of I mean, rightly so. He's revered here. He'll always be, he's leaving and no one's saying, oh, great, I'm glad he's gone. But I think it's a shift now in kind of their whole mentality. The Dynamo president, Chris Canetti, came out and said they're going to hire a technical director for the first time, which it was always Kinnear's job. He oversaw all of that. They're going to hire a technical director who will then hire the new coach. They have, like you, Mike said, they have this core of players. But if you watch the Dynamo, and if you've seen the Dynamo over the years, they never really developed any young guys. They have some young players. They've had good young players, but they kind of band-aid with the David Horsts, the Eric Bruners, MLS veterans, and kind of plug guys in. And Kinnear always made it work. But now there's going to be, I think, an emphasis on the youth that the Dynamo have in their academy, and some of the young guys they've drafted, that they've signed. Homegrown guys like Tyler Derrick, for instance, is a homegrown. Looks like he's going to take over as the starting keeper now. He had a pretty good game in Toronto. I don't know if you saw, Rob. Tyler Derrick was single-handedly keeping Toronto out of the playoffs. So I mean, to me, it's like thanks what Dom did, but I think now is the time. 9 years in one place. It's kind of time to move on. Time to let new blood in. So that's one person leaving from Houston. In New York, Mike, you also have someone leaving.
Most likely, yeah.
Most likely. Reports coming out. Go ahead.
I was going to say Franco Panizo, who writes for MLSsoccer.com and Soccer by Ives, dropped a bombshell today that Andy Roxburgh, no matter how the Red Bulls finish the season, win MLS Cup, lose MLS Cup, knocked out in the wild card round, whatever, will be leaving the club come January or December, whenever. Basically 2 years at the end of the season. So a lot of Rebel fans on Twitter going, oh, here we go again. We've seen this, but you bundle this with all the Rebels don't want to spend big anymore. They want to be a Real Salt Lake type team. Then they don't field a USL Pro team. Then all the sale talks that Grant Wall had on Sports Illustrated a couple of weeks ago, and a lot of people think a big shoe's about to drop here, whether they do sell the club, whether the Cosmos buy the Red Bulls, whatever crazy crackpot theories get brought up. But last offseason will prove to be the anomaly for New York, where it was a very quiet offseason, where there's very few acquisitions, just one or two exits. We might see, Henry gone, Cahill gone. Who knows who they protect in the expansion drafts and stuff like that. Dax might be in purple and gold for Orlando next year. It's going to be a very, very crazy Red Bulls off season. if
Yeah.
they're still the Red Bulls at this point.
Yeah, I mean, even before this Roxburgh news came out, it was going to be a huge offseason for the Red Bulls. Like you said, Henri's probably retiring. Cahill has lost seemingly gotten on the bad side of Petke. He may not be there. And
Pecky might not be
Cardi,
there.
Petke might not be there. And then and
who
then
knows?
the noisy neighbors from the Bronx are coming in next season. It's one of those make or break for the Red Bulls. They have a new enemy on their own turf, if you will, to help just spice things up just a little bit. But I think you already knew that.
Well, a lot of Red Bull fans were hoping that with New York City FC coming in, that maybe it would push the organization to not better itself, but to be more competitive, whether it's in marketing, because they really don't market a lot to the five boroughs. It's more about Jersey. They're called the New York Red Bulls. I mean, I live in one of the five boroughs. A lot of people that go to the games in the five boroughs, but you don't really see a lot of advertising out here. You might see a little bit. You see as much New York City FC advertising in Manhattan as you do the Red Bulls, and they're not even playing yet. And they don't have a stadium. They don't even have a team technically. So it's a bit frustrating to see those things. Walking to one of my games, see a New York City FC sticker on the concrete. I get angry because I don't see any Red Bull stickers plastered around in any of the fields that I play at. I see New York City FC and Cosmo stickers. So we were kind of hoping that it would push this organization to better itself. And Roxburgh and Petke seemed like the guys to do it. And then they had less offseason, made a couple of questionable acquisitions. Although Eckersley is kind of coming to his own the last few games. He'll probably get a really bad red card in the playoffs early on to knock us out. But it'll be the true
Rafa.
Yeah, that'll be the
Rafa
true. Or an Olave. That'll be the
Olave.
true Metro way of going out. So I mean, it comes at a weird time because they're marketing towards the history of the club. So they're bringing a lot more Metro stars in. Throwback stuff in. Henri's been wearing the Metro Stars armband. Game against Metro Stars, two of them, and two were Red Bull crest. So it's very odd. No one knows where this club is going, except to at least the knockout rounds of the playoffs as the near future.
Yeah, and there's a number of clubs I think who don't know where they're going this offseason. Toronto, Red Bulls, Houston, Chivas. Well, we know where Chivas is
where they're going.
They're going out to pasture, unfortunately. But
dibs on Cubo Torres.
Nice segue. Shifting over to Kubo, the great, with his robot this weekend when he scored for Mexico. There are reports now that MLS is going to buy Torres from his loan, and that the three teams that he's looking at are LA, Seattle, and Chicago, I believe.
Chicago, really?
Well, at least Chicago's a new name. I'll give him that.
I don't know. I would think he would come to Houston. There's a great Hispanic population in South Texas. That he would be great for the local community. He could robot all he wants at BBVA. Him and Will Bruin robot it up. But I mean, Torres obviously is he's 21, a star, and he's not American like we were talking earlier. It's one thing to bring in these American guys, and it's one thing to bring in these internationals that are in their 30s. But what does it say if they're able to keep a 21-year-old budding superstar? And that to me that's one of the huge things if they could pull that off.
A budding
Especially
Mexican star.
Yeah, I was gonna say especially because he's Mexican and he is right now owned by a Mexican team. For him to stay here would be massive, I think.
Well, definitely that's the next step in terms of MLS going from where they're at now to the next level. Is getting young foreign talent instead of relying on the stereotype that it's a retirement league or just filled with young Americans. So it's definitely something to look at in case it does happen.
I saw a tweet today that they think he'll stay in LA with the Galaxy because he loves Disneyland. He goes there like multiple times a week. I've read this. If I could find it, I would give the person credit. But apparently, the man likes Disney.
Yeah, Orlando might be in the running then.
Well, Orlando's got theme parks galore to offer, but maybe Kubo likes Disneyland. He wants to hang with Mickey.
I wonder if Kubo likes winter.
Yeah.
There's probably not real harsh winters in Mexico. I don't know that he's used to a.
No, we could always use a nice Mexican striker.
Listen, you have a Brazilian striker, an English striker.
Yeah, that English striker can. Are we uncensored or?
Yes. I was talking about Luke Moore, of course.
Oh, of course, yeah.
The great Luke Moore. He of former of Chivas USA. Didn't you guys trade him get him from Chivas?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh man, yeah. Well, Kubo's not going to Toronto. You can just leave that.
Damn.
But maybe the whole Celsius and meters thing can work in your favor.
Yes. Easy transition.
See, he's confused by all the Americans and their stupid miles and inches nonsense. Anyway, so that's kind of the news around MLS, and we haven't even hit on what's going on the field, it seems. So on the field, speaking of the Galaxy and the Sounders, they play twice in the next two games. Winner takes the Shield. Seattle has the. Does Seattle have the tiebreaker on wins?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're first right now. So two draws would give it to Seattle. A win and a win would give it to Seattle.
Even just a win would do it.
A win would do it. That's what I meant. A win and then a win by the other team. It's late. Who knows what I'm talking about? But LA, Seattle, who has the edge in you guys' opinion? Mike, we'll start with you.
I think LA is going to win the Shield. And this is crazy talk, but I think they're going to win the Shield. They're going to run to MLS Cup, host the Red Bulls, and lose an MLS Cup in penalties. And it's going to be an Henry penalty that does it. I've been calling that since Donovan called his retirement.
Landon kisses the wrists and then misses.
Yes.
Oh.
Dreams.
Garber would walk on the field and call for a free kick.
I know, honestly, Robbie Keane. I think the attacking three of just Robbie Keane, Jesse Zardes, and Landon Donovan will be too much for Seattle's defense. Because while Oba and Dempsey are going to be really good for them, I think LA has a much stronger defense than Seattle does. Seattle's defense has been shaky for weeks. We tore apart. So a lot of teams recently have torn them apart. So.
Yeah, LA is going to need a result in Seattle probably to win. Well, they are because they'd have to win twice or win and draw. So they'd have to get a result in Seattle. But Vancouver just went up there and beat them. So yeah.
Well, and LA historically has done well against Seattle in Seattle and at home. Seattle has not done great at the StubHub Center. So.
Yeah. It's a Sunday is a 5:15 kick on ESPN, and then next Saturday they play on regular NBC, TSN2 in Canada, regular NBC, right behind Premier League clash of giants. Swansea City, Leicester City, followed by the Supporter Shield on the line. You couldn't have asked for a better lead-in for Major League Soccer. Thank you, NBC. It's a phenomenal match. People tuning in to watch Leicester, they won't even know what the hell's going on. So, whatever. It's on regular NBC. It's better than.
It's not
Times
NBC's
Past.
fault, to be honest here.
Well, true.
There's only one game at that slot, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
They
they
get a
did
big game
bump
at that
it.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like the Monday game when they get Burnley against whoever. Oh,
Well,
Burnley, Aston Villa.
Yeah. Or a hole in Newcastle. That was.
Yes, that was a beauty. Or there was one the other day. It was Stoke. I think it was Stoke in Newcastle.
Yeah.
And
In the
Peter
rain.
Crouch busted out his little dance. That was pretty nice. So back to the Shield. Philip, your thoughts?
Uh, well, Seattle has been having their patented end of regular season collapse. So
You could say they invented late season
yeah,
collapses.
and I actually give them credit for that. But because Seattle has the tiebreaker and it is tough for LA. I mean, it's very much realistic that Seattle can get at least 2 points. So I would still give the edge to them, but I would probably rate it as 50-50.
Yeah, Rob. What do you
Yeah, I
think?
was leaning towards that as well. I could see them splitting it, but I guess the fact that Seattle has the wins as the tiebreaker, I think they win the Shield.
Yeah,
They'll win the home. Like Seattle will win it at home, and LA will win it at home. So, and that's just the way I see it.
it's crazy. LA's goal difference is like plus 40 or something ridiculous, like way ahead of everyone else in the league, and they're going to finish second on a tiebreak, even with that, because it's all about wins.
Has
Or
any
last-
other team ever won 20 games in a season?
Yes.
Yeah.
People of Twitter, send us a tweet. San Jose won a bunch the year they won the Shield a couple years ago.
How many did LA get a few years ago?
When they won the Shield,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm doing some searching on the Googles. Talk amongst yourselves, people. Yeah, I mean, they
I mean, that would be the last time I would think that it would have happened.
the Beckham years.
Yeah. 2010
Yeah,
2011 season.
Yes, they beat the Dynamo in the final. One of the years they were like a 4 seed when they put the Dynamo were a 5 seed and they were like a 4 seed.
I think that was year after 2012.
So in 2012 the Earthquakes finished 19-6-7, 4 points shy of the all-time record set by the Galaxy in '98. So 68 points is the record, which was probably 20 wins. So
and
San Jose 19 was close.
that's in a season with a lot less teams also. 98. So.
And 98 I think was still probably before the ties.
Yeah, it was still the shootout.
The shootouts, yeah. So there was either a win or a loss. So they
Wait,
had,
there was no ties?
Rob, where have you been? They used to have you need to get on YouTube.
I
They had a
didn't come
shootout.
around until,
Listen,
2006?
listen to this. They had a shootout where you start 35 yards out, you dribble up to the goalkeeper.
Give me a break.
I'm not lying.
No, you gotta be joking
I'm
now.
not lying.
The first 4 or 5 years in MLS,
Yes.
they did.
Yes.
Are you
dribble
for
up,
real?
You dribble one-on-one with the keeper and shoot. Not from the penalty spot.
So it's a breakaway. It's not even just a shootout.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a one-on-one.
They did it in NASL in the 70s.
Oh
you
my
dribble.
goodness.
We had it when I was in high school. That was our tiebreaker. We just tried to hit
No wonder
balls.
this league was seen as a Mickey Mouse league for so long.
That was during the count up clock too, or countdown clock, I think too.
What the heck?
Well, the year that
Yeah.
that Kansas City won the
Yeah.
MLS Cup, they beat LA in the semifinal, and the overtime rule was a 30-minute mini game.
Yes.
No, aggregate or anything like that. They just reset the score and you had a half-hour mini game. I think it was golden goal, if I'm not mistaken. It may have been a 30-minute game, or it might have been golden goal. I can't remember, but
You gotta be
that-
kidding me.
That was the tiebreaker rule back in 2000.
They also had the awesome rule where you could sub in You could sub in a keeper as an additional
Oh
sub.
man,
So with the Red Bulls brought in Eddie
Bob,
Gavin as a keeper.
Bob Bradley. Bob Bradley.
And Eddie Gavin stood there for like a minute, and then he took the keeper jersey off and went in the field.
he subbed Eddie Gavin in for Tim Howard. No, look.
Yeah, he replaced Tim Howard with Eddie Gavin, a wing player.
I want to get Klinsman's comments on that and all that.
Eddie Gavin scored the game winner also.
Yes, yeah, that's right. He did score the game winner.
It was a really big controversy. It was a really big controversy. They actually remember how NBC Sports last year was running the the MLS Insider program, and they'd have Judah Friedlander, the self-proclaimed world champ, do a little MLS history at the end of every episode. He did the Bob Bradley experiment once.
Yes,
it was
that's
glorious.
I just tweeted from our account the shootout for Rob to take a look at.
Oh my god.
It's glorious.
You're gonna love it.
I have to. You know what? I'm gonna watch this right now because
you need to then go find more because
it was a fun, more innocent MLS.
It was the days of the sweet Tampa Bay Mutiny kit like Phillips wearing, the Miami Fusion.
That's a jersey I want.
The Dallas Burn.
Look at the ponytail on this guy. Fusion versus Mutiny? What are you sending me here?
The good days. The Fusion Mutiny rivalry could not be the Florida Derby was one to behold.
Hey, the Fusion had Ray Hudson.
Look at how far back. What the hell? What is this? And the goalie saves it.
Of course, they can come out.
Yeah.
No, this is a joke. I can't finish watching this. It's too much to take in right now.
The thing I will say is, I knew about the shootout rule like that from Once in a Lifetime with the Cosmos, and I remember and during the movie, Johan Cruyff actually wants that shootout for FIFA competitions. Like he loves the rule so much that he actually likes that style.
I think there wasn't there a clock on it? You had like 5 seconds to get your shot off.
Yes. It was an actual shot clock on the end of the field.
So you couldn't like just dribble around and try to juke the keeper for.
So a shot clock breakaway.
Yes.
Was the tiebreaker.
Yeah, if the game was tied, there was no tie in the standings. You went to the breakaways.
That's too much.
It was a time when an innocent time before Canadian teams entered the league. We were just experimenting with really dumb shit, and
we played in 65,000 seat stadium and only filled about.
Yes.
Yeah. And the playoff series were like best of 3 in a weird way.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
We had some really sweet halftime shows at MLS Cup.
Good old MLS 1.0, eh, guys?
Yeah, that's exactly what
1.0 cannot be beat.
It's a hell of a time.
The shootout is the epitome of 1.0. And finally someone said, we can't do this. This is ridiculous.
That's unheard of.
Yes. DC eliminates New York from 96 MLS playoffs. Complete shootout.
Because of that.
8 minutes. Get on the YouTubes and check it out, people. This is going to fill up the rest of your night watching some sweet shootouts.
I gotta get up at 6 tomorrow. I can't be watching these clips after the show.
You might be alone because I'm about to bust out some sweet Alexi Lawless short shorts, ginger ponytail flying shootouts.
Oh, man.
The great Eric Winalda beating keepers off the dribble.
And Rob Stone and Max Bretos just yelling at you every step of the way.
Rob Stone just screaming. Max Bretos, go! Max Bretos.
The old ESPN.
And Tommy Smith, he used to call Metro
the old ESPN2 logo with the sweet spray paint. And let us not forget, Fox Sports World.
Oh,
Yeah, the good old days.
with the great
Oh,
Jack
yeah.
Edwards.
The great. You would get an occasional soccer game, and then you may see a cricket match bust out on some Fox Sports World, just for
some off-the-rule football.
yeah, 2 a.m. on a Saturday. You're like, what's up? Oh, I'll bust out some Fox Sports World. Sweet, Australian rules football. Just made my night.
I love Australian football.
Oh, love it.
I don't know.
There's an Australian guy now coming to the NFL, but
Yeah.
so that just totally went nowhere. It's about time to wrap up our show.
But it was worth it.
We're going to petition Garber to bring back the shootout. Might help, like Chicago. They had like 20 draws this season.
Yeah. Oh man, they set the record.
Well, maybe bring back the shootout rule. Get people to stop talking about pro rel.
You notice that did not come up today, Ted. If you're out there listening, how's it going? If you guys want to talk pro rel, you can send those tweets to 32 Flags. They love that discussion over there.
Hold on. Is that the guy that they called Tinfoil Ted?
Oh yes.
Okay.
You're not up on the great Ted. You should send
You know
him a
what?
tweet.
I
Start
think
some banter.
I think he was following me, to be honest.
Your life will be over once.
I
you
made a
send him.
comment, and he retweeted it or something,
Mhm.
and I don't understand. He went off today, didn't he?
He goes off daily. That's
what do you
his thing.
Daily.
Like 2 or 3 times a day.
And he's relentless. Like the
Talk
big.
about passion, eh?
Yeah.
But I had to put on the I tweeted from the 32 Flags post. I said I had to say something like note to self. Write an article about pro rel. It really gets the people going. even though I'm like vehemently opposed, people do talk about it. So it will get page clicks.
You want page views? You talk pro rel, New York City FC. Miami has no shot at making MLS.
Oh yeah.
That piss people off, and then sprinkle in some
Old school MLS 1.0.
Yes.
throw in some videos of shootouts. Boom. Golden website. And if you're out there and you want to start a website and you want our help, you name it the Kickstand, and we are fully behind you.
Yeah. How has no one done that yet?
Bust out the logo. I don't understand. The Kickstand.com. I don't even know if it's available, but the Kickstand on Twitter. Someone get it up. Get a blog on there. We've got your back. You can be our Total MLS's USL Pro team. We'll send Rob to you to get some seasoning. He needs some first team minutes. He's had too much anger this year trying to write about Toronto, so we'll work that out for you. The Kickstand. Someone get on it, please. All right.
Somebody does have that website.
They've got to.
It's a motorcycle website, so a little promotion to them.
Oh, well. There you go. The Kickstand, whoever you are, you just got some free plugs. All right, guys. Well,
How about a motorcycle?
thanks to Mike, Philip, Rob for joining us tonight. Thanks to myself, Dustin, for trying to not get too emotional about Dom leaving.
By the way, huge shout out to Dustin for that tweet today. Hey Jurgen, I don't know if you're following this or something, but I don't shine shoes no more.
Sometimes you have to bust out some obvious.
I was dying.
To people, you give people what they want.
Tweet of the day, by far, tweet of the day.
Total MLS account, making things happen. All right, we will hopefully be back next week. Hopefully. We'll come back on a weekly basis. My wife does not have a child, and the next week we will be back. So, for everyone here, thanks everyone for listening. We'll talk to you guys next week. See ya.